Already, I understand that there is an important meeting being held next door. In fact, I would very much want to attend that meeting as well. And but I still hope that we can maintain a quorum in this conference room, and the quorum is 7. So let's invite the administration in.
嗱，咁第一呢，就係上一次嘅會議記錄就係
Right, item 1. Confirmation of minutes. We've got paper CB 1732/12/13, minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of January. Can we confirm the minutes, please? Thank you very much. And then item 3, items for discussion at the next meeting. Now, the public consultation exercise on the recovery of glass beverage bottles will end in May, on the 6th of May, in fact. And so we will be meeting the industry on the consultation document on the recovery of glass beverage bottles. And we've also got a paper from the administration on outlying islands sewerage stage 2, Lemma village sewerage phase 2. I think this is a relatively simple paper, and so we can or we should be able to cover 2 items next time. Do members have any items they wish to propose for next time? No? Then item 4 now, provision of sewerage in Tolo, Harbour and North District. We've got paper CB 17361213 bracket 02. How can I invite the administration to take us through the paper? Yes, thank you, Chairman. I will ask my colleague to give members a very short PowerPoint presentation on the 2 items. In fact, these are not controversial items. Consultation at the district level has been completed, and in fact we are already, with members' support, we will go to FC in the near future for funding approval. But then one project has to do with EP, and the other project has to do with heritage conservation, and so members may have some questions for us. Anyway, I'll invite the DSD to give members a PowerPoint presentation first. Well, let's introduce the officials to members. We have Ms. Low, the Undersecretary, and then Ms. Amy Yun, Assistant Director, EPD, responsible for water policy. Then Mr. Cheng Hong Leung, Assistant Director, Drainage Services, and then Mr. Gabriel Wu, Chief Engineer, Drainage Services. All right, DSD, please. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, members, good afternoon. We'd now like to brief you on 2 sewage projects, one in Sha Tin, one in Tai Po, and the total cost is $684 million. Both projects should commence in the middle of the year. And we propose to upgrade these projects to Cat A, and we'll be going to PWSC soon. First of all, 125DS, Tolo Harbour Sewerage of Unsewered Area Stage 2. In 2002, the review on North District and Tai Po was completed by the DSD, and we drew up a plan for the 2 districts, and we have 125DS. And that's about providing sewage collection facilities for a total of over 40 villages. And now we are proposing to upgrade the following to Cat A, about 11.7 km of sewers for 9 unsewered areas in Sha Tin, namely Siu Lake, Yuen Ngao, Pei Sha, Chok Pok Hang, Sha Tin House, Fui Yu Ha, Kwai Tin New Village, and Sha Tin Fisherman's New Village, Khao Chou and Tin Liu, as well as 2 unsewered areas in Tai Po, namely Ha Wen Yu and Shan Tong. And we propose to collect the sewage in these villages, and we also propose to build a sewage pumping station at Khao Chou. Now you see the areas covered by the part to be upgraded to grade A. You can see the shaded areas. They represent the 11.7 km of sewers and the sewage pumping station at Khao Chou in Sha Tin. With the completion of the works, sewage will be collected and channeled to the Sha Tin sewage treatment works and Tai Po sewage treatment works for proper treatment and disposal. And that will help to bring about improvements to the air, to the water quality in the area and also the living environment in the area. Works should commence in the 3rd quarter of this year. And we expect works to be completed in the 3rd quarter of 2017. And the total project cost is $365 million. And then 339DS North District Sewerage. In 2002, the EPD completed the review of the North District and Tolo Harbour sewerage system, and some long-term plans were proposed. Under 339DS, 22 villages in North District and Tai Po will be provided with sewage collection systems. And we are now proposing to cover 2 villages under this present project, Nak Mua Po and Wai Chau Village. So we would like to provide sewers to collect the sewage. And then there will be 2 pumping stations, one at La Mua Po, one at Wai Chau Village. These villages are low-lying, and so pumping stations are required. So please refer to this map. The shaded parts represent the 2 villages in question. And the green squares are the pumping stations. So sewage will be collected and pumped along Tai Po Service Road West to the trunk sewers. Works should commence in the middle of 2013 for completion in the 3rd quarter of 2017. So a total of 4 years will be required. And the total project cost is $319.1 million. We will be consulting the public. We will minimize any nuisance cost to those affected, and we'll bear in mind the festive occasions, and we will make suitable arrangements to make sure that there will not be any disruption caused. We've consulted the district councils, the rural committees, and have obtained their support. So with these projects completed, we'll be able to further expand our sewage collection system. Sewage can be sent to the sewage treatment plants for disposal, for treatment and disposal, and as a result, the water quality can be improved, and so will the living environment. Jobs will be created by the projects, 190 jobs in total, including 155 workman posts and 35 professional or technical posts. We plan to go to PWSC in May for funding approval, and we hope that members will support this timetable. All right, members, you can now ask questions. For the time being, only 2 members want to ask questions? 3. Ms. Claudia Mo, Mr. Kenneth Chen, and Mr. Wu Chiu Wai. So 3 minutes for each member. I beg your pardon, 5 minutes for each member for the time being, but if I see more hands, then I will reduce the speaking time for each member. Ms. Claudia Mo. Yes, thank you. I really do not know too much about sewerage works. Ms. Low mentioned some possible impact on heritage preservation. So I wish to know more. So we are told that the proposed works how would you fall within the site of archaeological interest, and then we are told that excavation and rescue works will be carried out, or rescue excavation will be carried out before the commencement of the proposed sewerage works. But then and then we're told that an archaeological watching brief in the course of the proposed sewerage works will be conducted. I find it rather strange that we have sewerage works going on side by side with archaeological excavation. So, what are the what is the heritage value of the site? Can I know more about that?
So my second question is paragraph 21 on page 6, environmental implications. The DSD would implement mitigation measures related to the environmental permit. Can you elaborate? Now, on the resumption of land, 170 agricultural lots. Can you be clearer on that? Would our farmers be very unhappy that the government is forcing through with this proposal of resumption of land? All right, Secretary, 3 questions. I will ask different colleagues to tackle different questions. Cultural heritage, second, environmental protection, third, land resumption. Mr. Zhang, in Harbour, during the construction works, the contractor will carry out an assessment of the site, and the drainage works or the sewage works will be carried out in the vicinity. And actually, we have liaised with AMO, the Antiquities and Monuments Office, and the office will conduct a detailed investigation to minimize the impact of works. Actually, the works will be carried out in the vicinity of the heritage site. It will not have any effect, but for safety or we want to be more careful, and that's why we've asked an expert to look into this. Now, the sewage works are sort of very noisy and so on, whereas the archaeological watching brief is a sort of a more work of a more quiet nature. And how can you assure us that when you are carrying out your works, the heritage items will not be damaged? Chairman, we have asked an expert to look into the heritage pieces in that site, and we're definitely not going to damage those items. And actually, the AMO colleagues will work together with us and monitor our work in that aspect. So we would ensure that the heritage relics will not be affected. All right? Please undertake that you will not be doing any damage. All right? Okay, second question about the environmental impact mitigation measures. For example, noise, water quality. We would be implementing mitigation measures. We would install noise barriers and noise reduction devices and so on. And for rainwater, we would be collecting it appropriately to minimize impact on the villages. Now, as for land resumption, we have gazetted the relevant resumption, and we have consulted the local villages. We have received some objection, but then we have explained to the villagers, and they have withdrawn their objection subsequently. So how many objections were there altogether? Mr. Wu perhaps can elaborate on that point. As no other member has raised his hand, so I will be more lenient on the timing. Mr. Chen Hakan, next, also 5 minutes. Perhaps I would like to supplement a bit in our works. The two projects are related to collecting sewage from village houses. So actually, the area covered is not that big. Perhaps you would be installing a sewage pipe just 8 to 10 feet long, and so the areas covered by the works are really minimal, and we will be resuming only what is necessary. We would avoid resuming private land as much as possible. If we have no alternative, we would be resuming land alongside or above the roads and pedestrian walks. Now, as for agricultural lands, we would try to cut down on impact on the farmers' agricultural land. Now, there were 5 to 6 villages who opposed the proposals during the Gazzetto stage because they were worried that the sewer alignment might affect them. And in the end, we revised our alignment to meet with the villages' needs and demands. So for these two projects, the objectives withdrew their objections unconditionally. All of them, yes? Yes, all of them. Next one, Dr. Kenneth Chen. I live in Taipo, and I know the place, Harbour. But the paper did raise some questions. And actually, our colleagues communicated with the DSD this afternoon. Although we said that the sewer are only 6 to 8 feet long, and then they would not be affecting the villages. But then in paragraph 18, you said that you will conduct rescue excavation before works commencement. I think the works will affect the Harbour site, but I want to know whether that you will actually conduct excavation work before the commencement of your project works to see if any further heritage relics can be recovered. Are you working with the AMO, and the time and the costs involved, would that also be put or included in the project proposal? If you can give us more information, then it will help us in deciding on whether to endorse your proposal. Mr. Wu. In Wunyu, there is a section of the sewers which will pass an old heritage site in Wunyu. According to AMO, it has all the information on this site. We already know that there were these washing basins and which were left as part of the heritage items. And what we're doing is we are building a sewers alongside that site. So when we communicated with AMO, they told us that the impact on the heritage items is really minimal. Despite this, actually, the sewers will be alongside, within the distance of that site. So AMO requested us to conduct a rescue excavation. The excavation will be carried out within the site of our works. And actually, our project site will not be intruding into the heritage sites of Wunyu. So in our contract, we would ask the contractor to hire an archaeologist to look into whether there are still heritage relics being left there. We believe that there shouldn't be any, but for just to be careful, we've asked the contractor to do that. Now, during the works period, we would ask the contractor to employ qualified staff to do archaeological watching brief. So say if during the works period, if we have to dig deeper into the land and then we find that there are really heritage relics, we would ask the contractor to stop the works immediately and then ask the archaeologist to further study about that relics discovered. Now the administration, can you also ask about, can you talk about Tin Liu? There is a Grade 1 historic building there. Can you also ask the contractor before works commencement to do some investigation to see whether the works will have any impact on that Grade 1 historic building? Now, Chair Lady, at Tin Liu, we have several historic buildings graded as Grade 2 and then one Grade 3 historic building, and including a lamb's ancestral hall and several village houses. The village houses were built, say, some 100 years ago with a slanted roof and some sculptures actually on the walls. So I think they are worthy of preservation and they have been graded as Grade 2 or 3 historic buildings. So we have actually asked the contractor to make an assessment on the structure of the historic buildings as well as the existing buildings. So when the works commence and that the structure of these buildings is affected, then we would know immediately. If we do encounter problems, we would definitely take remedial measures. As I said, the sewers that we're going to lay are not big in scale, and we will dig around 1 to 2 meters into the ground for laying the sewer. So it shouldn't be having great impact on the nearby buildings. But in any case, we have asked the contractors to hire structural engineers to look at the structural aspect and monitor the situation. Mr. Wu Jiwei, thank you, Chair Lady. The paper talks about the impact or the heritage implications. Well, it seems that you will be putting in place a lot of arrangements. But then archaeology is a specialized discipline. And in this present proposals, you would only be monitoring the contractors in carrying out excavation and preservation work when it comes to heritage items. Well, I can't imagine that the workers on site can have expert knowledge in this area. So have you considered actually spending the amount for that aspect, actually asking the AMO to do the work instead of doing it yourself? Well, normally we don't have any objection on sewerage works. The main concern is how to encourage the individual house owners of villages to connect their private pipes or sewage pipes with the public or government sewerage works to ensure that your works are really effective. Say in Long May Beach, it is estimated that only 60 or 70% of the villagers are willing to connect their pipes together with the public sewerage works. Yes, can you tackle the first question, please? Mr. Wu, on archaeology. We have communicated with the AMO. We're not asking the workers to keep watch on the situation. We are asking people who meet with the AMO's qualification requirements to monitor the works. Now, perhaps you have misunderstood me. What I said is that archaeology is a special field. So if you ask the contractor to hire a team of people with archaeological knowledge, then that might be very costly. Now, if we think that archaeological aspect is important in these proposals, can you say allocate a sum of your budget to the AMO to undertake the archaeology related work? And I think it's more effective to do it that way. Let me supplement that there is also the issue of conflict of interest. If the contractor hires a team of archaeologists, then we wouldn't believe that the archaeological team would be independent. Now, I'm not an archaeologist myself, but perhaps I would like to raise a few points. First, this is not a site with great archaeological value. It's just near to a site with archaeological value.
And as my colleague has pointed out, they are not carrying out large-scale works. In fact, the area to be affected will be relatively small. And third, they have this arrangement in order to err on the safe side. Now, AMO is concerned, but not so concerned as to warrant its stepping in. But I want to say that this issue will be addressed in the contract. The contract requires that people with the expertise will be conducting rescue excavation before the works start. So if members want to know more about this part of the works, then perhaps I can invite AMO to come to brief members, because I don't want to all of us here who don't have the expertise to make a lot of assumptions. But of course I do understand that in Hong Kong we want to rescue all the heritage that is available, and so if members are interested, I think I can ask AMO to provide members with more information later. I just hope that the AMO will pay attention to this matter. I think AMO has more experience and more expertise than the contractor. I'm suggesting that you give an amount to the AMO. The contractor may be happy with such an arrangement because the contractor may not know too much about archaeological excavation. Now, Chairman, I think we can provide members of more information after this meeting because we'll have to go to PWSC. So I think we can give members more detailed information to allay members' concerns. Previously, Harbour was an area where there was some pottery and ceramics. I think members' concerns or worries are warranted. For example, the contractor may not be able to find people with the right expertise to do the rescue excavation. So perhaps we can ask the AMO to give some input. For example, the AMO should be involved in the drawing up of terms in the contract with regard to the rescue excavation and the archaeological watching. Yes, Chairman, thank you. I want to say that in fact the villagers have been waiting for these projects. And also, Chairman, for Harbour, I think conservation should be carried out now and not just before the sewerage works are going to start. Because at the moment, the area is not protected. Anyone can go in and damage our very precious heritage. And then Lam Wah Po and Waitau village. Maybe road closures will be required when works are carried out. I'm not asking the government to carry out a TIA, but then these villages have quite a large population. The village roads are usually rather narrow. And if the roads are blocked, then there will be very serious problems. And then let me say something about a pumping station at Lam Wah Po. Usually, such works produce a lot of noise. Now, from the plan, I can more or less grasp the location of the proposed sewage pumping station. But when you consulted the district council, did you pinpoint the location of this proposed pumping station to them? And did the residents express any worries about possible nuisances? Yes, Chairman. In fact, we've told the district council and the villagers very clearly the proposed location of the pumping station. There will be a lot of equipment in the pumping station, and so we will try to reduce the noise and the vibration. And also, because of the possible odor problems, we do have deodorizing devices in the pumping stations. I believe the pumping station should be about 30 meters away from the residents. Given the village setting, it's difficult to have a pumping station which is very far away from the residents. I hope that at the PWSC, I can be shown exactly the location of the pumping station at Lam Wah Po and how near or how far it's going to be from the nearest residential developments. Yes, I've got a question in relation to para 16 and 17. We are told that the Typo Rule Committee was consulted in May 2007, and the District Council was consulted in September 2007. So so we're not talking about the present term of the District Council. 5 years have lapsed since the consultation was carried out. Now, when you did the consultation in 2007, maybe there weren't any problems, but maybe a lot of houses have been completed since then. Yes, Chairman, we have been liaising with the Typo Rural Committee and the Typo District Council on the proposed works. And we've all along been able to get the support of the District Council. We've taken into account existing residential developments as well as applications for small house development and also possible residential development as shown in the development plan. And we, in our design, have tried to make sure that the proposed developments will also be sewered. Right? In the PWSC paper, can you tell us very clearly when you last consulted the Rural Committee at the District Council? Mr. West told us that they have been liaising all along with the District Council and the Rural Committee. But then, according to the paper, the last consultation was done 6 years ago. Ms. Quat, I'm also concerned about the proposed works in Sha Tin. Now, according to some residents, not all the houses will be covered by the sewerage plan. So is it that all small houses which are occupied or inhabited will be sewered and covered by the sewerage plan? That's the first one. And then second, in Sha Tin, in fact, there is a lot of sewage being discharged directly into Shingmun River, and as a result, the water quality in Shingmun River is rather poor. So, after the completion of the proposed works, will there still be villages in Sha Tin which are unsewered? Will there still be sewage from village houses in Sha Tin discharged directly into Shingmun River? And then third, upon the completion of the works, to what extent will the quality of the water in Shingmun River improve? And that brings me to the point about water quality standards. Now, very often, according to government reports, we are told that the water quality in Shingmun River is very good, and in fact, we can almost swim there. But then this morning, I received a complaint from a resident expressing discontent with the very strong odor. But of course, that was in fact I sent my colleague there this morning, and my colleague said it was there was some odor, though not a very strong odor. So the government keeps saying that the water quality in Shingmun River is very good, but so there are people who think otherwise. Yes, Ms. Christine Low. So, Chairman, Ms. Kwok talking about having sewers linking small houses to the trunk sewer or what? Now, you know, there are many villages which are unsewered, and that's why you've got this project. But then, according to some villages, even if sewers are constructed, certain houses will not be connected to those sewers. Now, we'll construct a trunk sewer, and then each household should construct its own small sewer connecting to the trunk sewer. And I understand that every time this is a matter of controversy, because each household has to spend some money to do its part. This is a difficult issue. Now, we can only provide the trunk sewer, we cannot really provide all the connections to the individual houses. Scott, then will there be a possibility that even if the households are willing to spend money to construct their own small sewers, their houses still can't be connected to the trunk sewer system? Is there a requirement that the trunk sewer must be within a certain distance from the household, from each and every household? Now, yes, we will reach the nearest connection point for each house, and then the owner has to provide or to construct the small sewers. And so we will connect to the try to connect to the terminal manhole. But I understand that because of certain constraints, some of the houses may not be able to be connected to the sewage system. So what can be done in such cases? Also, the owners will have to rely on the soakaway systems and the manholes. All right, I just want to know whether members have any further questions. Yes, thank you. Now, in fact, for Shing Mun River, the water quality is quite good. Now, since the 1980s, quite a lot of work has been done. With regard to the sewage system in Sha Tin and also control over industrial uses and emissions.
Also, there is an export scheme from the Sha Tin sewage treatment once leading the water to the Victoria Harbour. So various works have been undertaken to improve the water quality at Shing Mun River. Overall, the water quality is not that bad. Now, using the water quality indicators we use actually is very good, the water quality there. The indicator looks at the level of pollutants, say the 5-day BOD level. Well, as far as that kind of indicator is concerned, the water quality is indeed very good. But there are a lot of developments around Shing Mun River, and the river serves also a drainage purpose. So in times of bad weather, then the situation may not be that good. So we have received complaints, the EPD, on odor and so on, and there may be different reasons for that. We've done many works as far as sewage is concerned, and for the Shing Mun River, when if we were talking about a bathing beach, we use E. coli level as an indicator, and it should be the level should be lower than 615 units, and if that indicator is used, that actually Shing Mun River can be suitable for swimming. Now, as for the improvement of water quality in Shing Mun River is concerned, when the sewage works have been completed, then it's difficult to say. Now, the works that we are proposing will ensure that the sewage from the villages covered will not be polluting the Shing Mun River. Sorry, mic not coming through. Sorry. Okay. I've received the largest number of complaints from residents in Manlai Court, and actually the Shingmen River near that residential development is abandoned, and the rubbish may accumulate there. And also, there are some Chinese tenements buildings nearby, and because of the sewage from Chinese tenement buildings, that part of the river may be particularly polluted. Now, I think that you should review the water quality standards, and you should look into how to improve that particular section of Shingmen River that I mentioned, because I've been receiving so many complaints on that section. Now, are there any villages which are not covered by public sewerage systems? Yes, perhaps I would ask the administration to provide us with a paper before you go to the Public Works Subcommittee. You can give us details on the E. coli units in Shingmen River and the order of Shingmen River and the works that you are undertaking in Shingmen River. Perhaps the administration can give us a paper afterwards before the proposals goes to the Public Works Subcommittee and the Finance Committee. I think a paper would be better. So how many villages are still uncovered by the public sewerage systems? Yes, around 30 villages. Yes, in Hong Kong, there is an overall sewerage master plan for every district in Hong Kong. And when the plan was drawn up, maybe the 30 villages that I talked about were rather remote and not covered under the plan. And we have launched a study earlier this year, and we'll study the villages not covered, and we will see whether those villages can be covered as well in future plans. Yes, our supplementary paper, can we focus on water quality in Shingmen River? I think we'll just talk about the Shingmen River as related to these two projects. I think that's a better way of dealing with it. Yes. I want to follow up. You might not answer this time, but you can give us a paper later on. In the past, we have dealt with a number of such sewerage systems, and this question was raised time and again. Now, if the household owner or the tenant doesn't want to connect his private sewage to the public sewage, then it's a waste of money for us to lay public sewers. I want to know the percentage of households willing to connect their private sewage with the public sewage. And can you do more work as far as publicity is concerned to encourage the individual households to connect their sewers to the public sewers? All right, so much for this item. Now we move on to the next agenda item. Sorry. So I have to ask you, do members agree that we forward the proposals to the Public Works Subcommittee? Mr. Chen Kim-po. Yes, okay, you agree, right? Yes. If there is no objection, we would be forwarding the proposals to the PWSC. The next agenda item is on the upgrading the quality of local marine light diesel. papers, CB1 736 12 13 bracket 05. Perhaps the administration will take us through the paper. Yes, perhaps we'll wait for Mr. Mock to come in first. Attending this item are also Mr. Mok Wei-chin, Assistant Director, Air Policy, and also Mr. Tony Lee, Senior Environmental Protection Officer, Air Policy. Yes. Four members have raised their hands to raise question. Chen Kim-bo, Kenneth Chan, Kwok Wei-kang, Jia Wei-chin, Chen Chi-chin. Then maybe we'll be stricter on the time. Perhaps an Undersecretary or who would speak on the paper? I'm sure that you are familiar with the paper. I will just be very brief in my introduction. You know that for various marine vessels, we would want to improve their environmental protection performance. For ocean-going vessels, we want them to implement fuel switch at berth. Now, for local vessels, we want them to use cleaner fuel. I don't want to go into the details of all the percentages in the paper. I'm sure that the members are very familiar with those. Now, as for the sector, that the oil supply is not a problem, but that the major issues of concern are that in the costs. I don't know whether members are most interested in this aspect, costs. Yes, perhaps I'll just take questions from members right away. Yes, Mr. Chen Kim-bo. Thank you, Chair Lady. I want to look at paragraph 10 about opinions from the stakeholders that the government should ensure that the oil companies will not increase the diesel price upon the introduction of LSD, and also the government should consider opening the fuel supply market, and then the government should also consider providing adequate supplies to the trade. But the questions are here, but the government has not listed as responses. Is the government going to resolve these problems? If the legislation requires that only ULSD or LSD be used, will that jack up the prices and will there be a monopoly? Also, how would you ensure that the vessels will be using illegal fuel? Because if there is a price difference, illegal acts are bound to happen. Now, I support the proposals in principle. It's a matter of how to plug the loopholes. All right, 5 minutes for each member. Yes, Mr. Mock. Thank you, Chair Lady. First of all, about fuel prices and opening up the fuel supply market. What's most important is if we introduce a cleaner fuel, will the supply be reduced? Now, several oil companies are supplying oil. Now, if we tighten the standards, will the supply be reduced? Now, all along, we've been discussing with the oil companies. The oil that we are proposing, 0.05% sulfur, that is a standard grade oil in the refineries in Singapore. So in other words, if we tighten the standard, the supply will not be a problem. And there will not be a situation where oil companies will be monopolizing the market. So members can rest assured on that. Now, Chair Lady, I want to the administration to clarify, because there are now choices of LSD and USD, and because there no further choices of high sulfur diesel, then how can you ensure that prices for LSD will not be jacked up? Well, Chair Lady, in the market, there is one type of diesel, HSD, and we don't see a monopoly in the market now. And we've understood from the oil companies, if we are going to tighten the standards, and actually the existing oil companies can supply the LSD proposed. It's just that they have to meet with a higher standard in the future. And actually, in Singapore, the LSD is really a standard grade oil in Singapore, and that can be easily brought into Hong Kong. So that can ensure that no oil company will monopolize the market. Now, if we are tightening up the standards and then that the LSD is supplied by only one company, then there won't be a monopoly. But as far as we understand from the oil companies, that won't happen. Now, Mr. Chen mentioned about cross-border vessels, or vessels maybe illegally selling substandard diesel in Hong Kong. When we talked with the sector, we see that the local fishing vessel or vessels plying between Hong Kong and mainland, they usually fill the diesel tanks with diesel in Hong Kong because the prices are cheaper and the diesel quality in Hong Kong is better than that on the mainland. So they want the diesel to damage their engine, so because that's going to affect their business. So they rather buy diesel in Hong Kong. Now there have been news reports that Hong Kong diesel is being smuggled into the mainland for sale.
Mr. Ho Chun-yin. Yes, Chairman. All of us in Hong Kong support environmental protection, but I think here we're talking about the interests of the sector. Now, I want to clarify the following points. First of all, para 2. Local crafts and river vessels plying between Hong Kong and PRD ports contributed about 21%, 32%, 57%, blah, blah, blah. Why is it that you are mentioning local crafts and river vessels plying between Hong Kong and the PRD ports in the same breath? I want to have a breakdown between the two categories. So are we really targeting the right group of vessels? That's my main concern. And then for river vessels coming to Hong Kong from the mainland, they use diesel coming from the mainland. So I think if we are to resolve the problem of air pollution in Hong Kong, we should try to persuade the mainland authorities to require the river vessels coming to Hong Kong to use cleaner fuel. And also, I understand that the industry is concerned about the effectiveness, maximum power output. We have Gardner and Cummins. You know, most shipping vessels use Gardner, but then you know some shipping vessels are using engines called Hino. And are they compatible with LSD? Now, I know that Gardner engines are used in many shipping vessels, but then we understand that there will be a drop in the maximum power output, 5%, and I think that's quite significant. Who can give an answer? Mr. Mok, thank you. Chairman, with regard to local crafts and river vessels, I think the emission levels of the two groups of vessels are rather similar. I think joint efforts are required to solve the air pollution problem. So if we can upgrade the diesel standard for local vessels, we can reduce emissions from local vessels. But then for river vessels coming to Hong Kong from the mainland, many of them are refueled in Hong Kong. And so when these vessels come to Hong Kong for refueling, they will have to use LSD in the future. And then second, we've chosen Gardner and Cummins, these two types of engines. We've chosen these two types of engines because we've consulted the trades. In fact, a working group was set up comprising representatives of the trades, and we said that we should identify some widely used engines, and the two types were proposed by the trades. I want to say that oil companies do purchase oil satisfying international standards. May I refer members now to para 8 of the paper. ISO 8217, or the gas oil specifications of Platts. So if these requirements are met, then there will not be damage done to the engine. Now, so when oil companies buy oil, they do go by these specifications. And in future, when we draw the legislation, we will lay down these specifications in the legislation. So this is important. And then concerning the power output or maximum power output, Chairman, can I continue? Can you give me a little bit more time? Yes. May I refer members to para 5, Chairman, 5B. Fuel consumption under constant loading conditions, and also fuel consumption for load variation during operation. I understand that the trades want to know how much more fuel will be required under normal operation, and we understand that it should be about 1% or slightly more than 1%. In fact, the heat value of the two types of fuel is not the same. A difference of about 1% or slightly more than 1%. And we can see here that the amount of fuel consumption will increase slightly. In fact, the professors at the University of Hong Kong responsible for the study have shown us that, in fact, the outcome is credible and representative. Chairman. Oh. Now I think the figures may steer our discussion towards a wrong direction. I think we should be given the figures for local crafts and river vessels separately. And then Mr. Ho said that 10% of the vessels are using another type of engine. I'm really talking about fishing vessels, Hino, and also another type of engine. I thank Mr. Ho for the comments. Maybe the administration can provide us with some information. Now, there will be legislation according to the timetable, and the bill will come later in 2013 for enactment in 2014. And so I believe the bill won't come to legislation till after the summer recess. So should we have a public hearing after the bill has been tabled in this council, or should we have a public hearing at this stage so that the administration can take on board views expressed by the trades in drawing up or in preparing the legislation? So members, what do you think? Mr. Kenneth Chan? Chairman, I think it's always good to listen to the trades, and so if we can have the comments earlier, then I think such will be helpful to the administration as well as to members. May I refer to para 8 and para 9? It is said that they will make reference to similar provisions and arrangements under the Air Pollution Control Motor Vehicle Fuel Regulation, CAP 311L, for cases of non-compliance. Now, but then here we're talking about vessels. Pacific Exchange has also proposed that we should look at CAP 311 but not 311L. They've proposed Section 43 of CAP 311 1P. It's about fuel. In other words, any material which may be emitted, including anything that may power vehicles, vessels, and then Section 42 of CAP 311 is about penalties. So apart from looking at CAP 311L, should we also look at Section 43 of CAP 311 or CAP 548? They may have to do with emission. So 313 and 548. So that's the first point. And then second, when we talk about control over the fuel use, I understand that there is a proposal requiring vessels to switch to cleaner fuel at berth. But then if we can require vessels to switch to cleaner fuel when they are far away from the harbour, that would of course be a good idea. But there are a few things that we are considering. First, requiring ocean-going vessels to switch to cleaner fuel when they berth at our port. Then second, upgrading the diesel standard for local vessels. And third, requiring vessels to travel more slowly when they enter our port. All these together can help to reduce emission. And then we have to look at feasibility. You know, the Hong Kong waters are very busy, and also our channels, navigation channels, are narrow. And so, in fact, at certain locations, vessels are already traveling at a slow speed. But if vessels have to travel at a slower speed, will there be some adverse impact on the operation of the vessels? And then if you require the vessels to switch to cleaner fuel as soon as they enter Hong Kong waters, now we have a problem because our waters are rather narrow. And so it will be good if we can take the entire Pearl River Delta waters as a whole. That's why we really want to join hands with Shenzhen and Guangdong. But of course, our top priority is to require ocean-going vessels to switch to cleaner fuel when they're at berth in Hong Kong, because these are big vessels, and also these vessels do have experience switching to cleaner fuel when they're at berth at other ports. Thank you. But of course, we have to have discussions with the relevant trades. But I think Mr. Mock would like to answer some of my other questions. Yes, thank you. I want to say that under the Air Pollution Control Ordinance, we can make regulations. And when we finally make the regulations, we have to rely on 43P. But then why is it that we have mentioned 311L, Air Pollution Control Motor Vehicle Fuel Regulation? This is because this regulation is about sales, supply, and distribution. And the proposed control mechanism will be similar to that for vehicles, and that's why we've said that we want to make reference to CAP 311L. But perhaps, Mr. Chen, you may want to follow up on whether there should be similar penalties for vehicles and for vessels. Yes, I'm interested to know about this. Because for for vehicles, many of our vehicles are private cars, but then for vessels, not many are for private use.
Mr. Wu Jiwai, maybe I'm a little bit confused. I want to know whether the proposed regulation is aimed or targeted at local vessels. But for ocean-going vessels, they are not covered. They are required to switch to cleaner fuels only through, say, a charter. I just want to clarify whether this is the case. If you are just targeting the local vessels, but then 70% of the pollution is related to ocean-going vessels, and then you have to rely on a voluntary mechanism, then that doesn't help. Secondly, after using this type of LSD, in the last meeting, we talked about how to monitor the dark smoke emissions from vessels. Are you monitoring the emissions through your eyes, through bare eyes? How are you going to monitor whether the vessels are using LSD? It seems that the director says that because Hong Kong is offering cheaper LSD than the mainland, but we don't know whether this will the case. This pricing situation will persist. Thirdly, which is also very key to the whole proposal, according to the paper, the engines should not be damaged by the use of LSD. But then there are also opinions that the engines the mechanism of the engines should be further improved to enhance their performance. Or will the government subsidize the replacing of the engines of vessels? Do you mean to say that engines using LSD will not be able to have high performance? It's only that when the engines are replaced that the benefits of use of LSD will be maximized. Yes, thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you, Mr. Wu. 3 questions about ocean-going vessels and the upgrading of marine light diesel. We want to use various means to reduce emissions from vessels. As what the paper says, we hope that through regulating the supply of LSD in Hong Kong, we can reduce the emissions. Now we are proposing tightening up the percentage of sulfur from 0.01 to 0.05%, and the results must be very positive. And we hope that the various pollutants, emission of various pollutants, can be reduced. I hope members can support us in our proposals. Now, as for ocean-going vessels, we are consulting the trade. If we mandate fuel switch at berth, then that would help. So we are actually going these 2 directions, going along with these 2 directions to help improve the air quality. As for the use of LSD, would we be using our eyes to monitor the dark smoke emissions? First of all, we talk about what is the impact on dark smoke emission. Now, if vessels emit dark smoke, it means that they have to do a better job on repair and maintenance. Even if they are using 0.5% sulfur diesel, they shouldn't be emitting dark smoke. Now, for exceptional circumstances, like they have to suddenly accelerate, then there will be dark smoke, but that will only last for a short period. Now, if we are to tighten the standard of oil, then dark smoke will still appear if the repair and maintenance work is not being carried out properly. Now, thirdly, on the whether engines should be enhanced before the benefits can be maximized, that's not the case. Yes, Mr. Tony Chet, about reducing emission from vessels to improve air quality. Of course, I would support that. I would like to ask some questions. The Secretariat has, in its background brief, in paragraph 16, it says that the mainland will also adopt from July 2013 with a standard with a sulfur limit of 0.035% for diesel. Now we are proposing 0.05 here. Why don't we adopt a lower figure, 0.035%? Is it because that it has to do with the oil or fuel supplied by Singapore? The director also said that improvement will be made gradually, but are we drawing up a 5-year or 10-year plan on controlling emissions from the vessels? In paragraph 7 of the paper, the reduction of RSP and nitrogen oxide is mentioned. So do you have any long-term targets for reduction or a timetable? Second question first. About the question on mainland, I will defer to my colleague to tackle it. Mr. Wu Chi-wai mentioned about this ocean-going vessels. We want to legislate on 2 fronts: ocean-going vessels at berth and also upgrading local marine light diesel. Now, as for ocean-going vessels, we hope that they can switch to cleaner fuels when they are at berth. Now, if we can legislate on that front in the next legislative year, then it can be implemented soon. We haven't been able to come up with a target. I think this is something for our further discussion. For OGVs, we ask them to switch fuel at birth. And now if we are to build a low emission control areas in the PRD, we will have to meet with the requirements of the International Marine Organization. But then their requirement is that the sulfur content should even be lower. Now, I think it's our overall direction to along that direction. But then it may take several years before we can implement what I proposed in the PRD. We can tighten the standards gradually, but what we are concerned is about the supply. I think we're coming up with a proposal in a timely manner because Singapore is mass producing the grade or type of oil or fuel that we propose. So we can avoid the situation of monopoly in the sector. We also talked about ULSD. Originally, our plan was for proposing ULSD, but then there are problems with the prices because the price differential may be as high as 20%. You can say that we now take a step backward. Yes, Mr. Tony Chair, any follow-up from you? I asked about the question on the mainland because the mainland was adopting a 0.035% sulfur standard. Mr. Mock, in drawing up the standards, we have to take on board the type of oil supplied by oil refineries because we have different sources of oil from the mainland. Because in Singapore, they have 0.5%, 0.05%, and then 0.005%. And we talked about your LSD, but people are very concerned about the price. So if you are to upgrade the oil, the diesel, it's naturally from 0.5% to 0.05%. I think the mainland is also tightening up their standards. I think this is a good thing. Now, members have raised the concern about our vessels refilling their fuel on the mainland. But then with the latest standards of the mainland, we shouldn't be worried about people using less oil of lower quality of vessels from the mainland. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. In the background brief, paragraph 13. And it is mentioned that there is a post-secondary institution to undertake studies on developing scrubbers to reduce SO2 emission, and local ferry operators could seek funding from the Pilot Green Transport Fund to test such devices on the ferries. All right, have you done that survey, and what are the results? Now, if the results are positive, what will be the administration's proposals? Secondly, of course, I support vessels switching to the use of LSD. Can ferries use biodiesel, and what is the performance as far as the vessels are concerned in the using biodiesel and LSD? Thank you, Mr. Kwok. In the background brief prepared by the Electoral Secretariat, paragraph 13, We know that a local ferry operator is interested in installing or developing emission reduction devices. And they're not just focusing on reducing sulfur dioxide, but also nitrogen oxides as well. We welcome their initiative. And when we met with them, we talked to them that there is this pilot green transport fund. But for reducing sulfur dioxide, the simplest way is to use low sulfur diesel. Now, if they want to make further reductions, we of course welcome them to do so. Now, as for biodiesel, the greatest benefit is that the carbon emission will be minimized because it's a site of recyclable energy. Now, for vessels using biodiesel, there is a problem that not too much biodiesel can be used because some engines may not be compatible. So they might only be using a small part of the diesel, or they will only be using biodiesel to a small scale. Say perhaps only 5% at most of biodiesel can be used, so the impact will not be that great. Well, I understand that the same goes to road vehicles. Now, what about the costs? What is the difference between the costs between LSD and biodiesel? Biodiesel is relatively more costly than sulfur diesel. So the trade might not be very proactive in using biodiesel. Thank you, Chair Lady. Mr. Frankie Yick.
No.
Thank you. Chairman, I'm not a member of this panel. Thank you for allowing me to ask questions, and I need to declare interest. I want to say something on behalf of the ferry trade, and I'm one of the directors of Star Ferry. First of all, we are told that because of the use of LSD, the amount of fuel consumed will increase. And then second, according to the paper, the price differential is only going to be 7 cents. But we've been told that the cost differential, fuel cost differential is $1. But of course, I understand that with bulk purchase, the cost differential will drop. I want to say that the ferry trade is operating under great financial difficulty. Of course, the trade supports some measures to improve air quality, but the operators really have great difficulty coping with the extra cost, and they may be faced with no alternatives but to transfer the additional cost to consumers and or passengers. As you know, it's not easy to get approval for increase in fares. I believe the member is concerned about the fuel cost differential. Mr. Yek is of the view that we should have some discussion with the THB. And I think that the ferry trade can put its views to us, but I have to frankly say that for the time being, we don't have any subsidy or subvention plan in mind. Yes, I'll ask whether the operators have got any proposals for the administration. And then I agree with Mr. Mock. The maintenance of the engine is of utmost importance. But though, as you know, in Hong Kong, there are many types of vessels, and some of them are rather old. They have old engines, and the spare parts are not available in the market, and so spare parts have to be tailor-made. But then still they can't meet the specified standards, and as a result, these vessels are inevitably as smoky vehicles, so to speak. So will you consider a subsidy scheme like that for the replacement of old diesel vehicles? Who can give a reply? How much does it cost to replace the engine? But then if we're talking about subsidy, how much are we talking about? Now, I don't have any exact figures because engines do vary in size. But I understand that the ferry trade will look forward to having more discussions with the Bureau. They understand that the Bureau would want to promote the use of cleaner fuel, and they would like to have a scheme like that for the replacement of old diesel vehicle scheme. Now, yes, I understand Mr. Yick's concerns, but at the moment we don't have any plans in mind, and so I think Mr. Yick can ask the ferry trade to give our Bureau and the THB some proposals. Now, when we talk about local ferries, you know, they are vintage vessels. And understand that for some vessels in Hong Kong, including ferries, you can't readily buy the spare parts in the market. But anyway, I welcome more information and proposals from the ferry trade. I think we need more information from the trade. Without such information, it's difficult for us to ask the administration to come up with certain plans or proposals. Now, the Undersecretary said that many vessels were vintage vessels, and that is why the Star Ferry has commissioned the study on the scrubbers. Now, you know, 90% of the SO2 and 70% of the NOx can be removed if the test turns out to be successful, and then we can have scrubbers retrofitted in the larger vessels. Now, if we have to replace an engine, we may be talking about over $10 million, but then the retrofitting of scrubbers may only cost, say, $1 million or so. Yes, Chairman. I understand that there are additives available in the market to reduce black smoke. Can these additives also reduce the emission of sulfur? So can the ferries in Hong Kong be retrofitted with these additives? And then second, I understand that we're going to offer discounts on berthing and light charges to ocean-going vessels to encourage them to switch to cleaner fuel upon berth. And so can we offer some incentives to our local vessels? For example, if there's a fuel cost differential, then can we provide a subsidy? Why is it that we are so relaxed towards ocean-going vessels and so harsh on local vessels, they may ask. And I think ultimately there should be legislation governing local vessels and ocean-going vessels, or else local vessels operator will complain that local vessels are subject to legislation while ocean-going vessels are treated leniently. Can Mr. Mo answer the first question? Yes, thank you. Sulfur cannot be removed by additives, so you have to have desulfurization in the fuel in order to reduce sulfur emission. some people say that there are certain additives which can help to reduce the amount of black smoke. Now, as I have said, black smoke is to a large extent caused by maintenance problems, and additives are cleansing agents like detergents, and if the carbon is cleansed, then the amount of black smoke may be removed, or may be reduced rather. But then additives cannot remove sulfur. We'll have to rely on low sulfur content fuel, or we may have to rely on scrubbers. I think policy-wise, we aim to enact legislation targeting big vessels as well as smaller vessels alike. For ocean-going vessels, we are proposing to provide port and light due concessions to ocean-going vessels if they switch to cleaner fuel at berth. And then the Deputy Chairman would like to ask whether we can provide a subsidy with regard to the fuel cost differential to local vessels. If we have to provide a subsidy to local vessels, then what form should it be in? Now, because for fuel costs, they do fluctuate in accordance with international trends. But then for port and light dues, these are at fixed levels. Now, Mr. Yik, in fact, has also proposed something similar. I have to admit that we don't have such plans at the moment. But maybe you can put forward these ideas for our discussion. And then biodiesel. Will biodiesel or the combustion of biodiesel emit more nitrogen oxide? If we look at the overall performance of biodiesel, then the sulfur content is less than the 0.05%. But when we compare biodiesel with Euro 5 diesel for vehicles, I think for the sulfur content is comparable. And then nitrogen oxides, biodiesel may, or the combustion of biodiesel may emit a bit more nitrogen oxide because biodiesel contains more oxygen, and so relatively speaking it emits more nitrogen oxide, but the problem is not serious. At the same time, concerning particulates, studies show that the combustion of biodiesel emit less particulates. But now let me talk about vessels. Vessel engines may not be fully compatible with the use of biodiesel. Some of the spare parts are rather old, the design is old, and so biodiesel cannot be used fully. Maybe only up to 5% biodiesel. But of course, the advantage is that as a renewable fuel, and so the emission of carbon will be less. In fact, there will be a motion debate on Wednesday, and I understand that the motion contains one part on the use of biodiesel. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Chairman, concerning the use of biodiesel, I want to say that this proposal is about upgrading the diesel standard for local vessels from HSD to LSD. In Hong Kong, there are two biodiesel refineries which are of considerable size. So we just want to know whether there will be more use of locally produced biodiesel biodiesel. According to the Environment Bureau, every year we have millions of liters of biodiesel being used. And these two refineries can produce large quantities of biodiesel every year. So if in this legislative exercise, we can offer biodiesel as an option for vessels, then we may be able to promote waste oil recovery and the production of biodiesel in Hong Kong. Mr. Mok. Chairman, I've got this suggestion. I think the promotion of the use of biodiesel is a separate topic. In fact, biodiesel can be used on vessels and also on vehicles. But then in this exercise, we don't want to complicate the matter because there will be some who will be concerned about the cost of biodiesel. This exercise is about upgrading the diesel standard for local vessels. We've consulted the trades. They have reflected their views to us. And so if members agree, we will legislate on the use of LSD. But then concerning the promotion of the use of biodiesel, that can be a separate exercise, and we can have another discussion with the trades on this one. All right. So can we go back? Yes, Under Secretary. I understand that Mr. Mok would like to make one further point. Chairman, Mr. Ho said that 10% of the fishing vessels still use grease machines, and I want to respond to that point, although Mr. Ho is not in this conference room. As mentioned in the paper, we have a working group. And the working group comprises representatives of the fishing industry, and they've agreed that concerning the two engines chosen, namely Gardner and Cummins, they are representative.
I also explained that in our future legislative proposal, we would be using the existing standards, ISO 8271 or the Platts standards in our proposals to ensure that the fuel currently in use and the proposed fuel type will not differ as far as their specifications are concerned. So it will suit all types of engines. So I just want to supplement that for members' reference. I hope that you would note the 10% raised by colleague. If we want to legislate on local vessels switching to cleaner fuel, we will have to take into consideration the base numbers of the vessels. Now, coming back to this question of holding a public hearing, because you will be presenting the legislative proposal in October, I raised that rather than waiting for the gazetto of the legislation or bill and then hold a public hearing, we will consider holding a public hearing, inviting stakeholders now to come to present their views now. As what Mr. Frankie Yek said, say subsidies on replacing or upgrading the engines. What cost will it take? We really don't know. The range can be big. So, members, any opinions? Mr. Wu Chi-wai, of course, I support that the public hearing be held as soon as possible to listen to views of the stakeholders. Now, on subsidy for the trade, vessel operators are like SMEs. The government operates SME Guarantee Loan Fund, but it doesn't cover the vessel operators or vehicle operators. So can the administration think about whether the SME loan can also be extended to cover these vessel operators? And if we do that, we don't have to think of setting up a separate fund for, say, upgrading the engines. That may be an option. Yes, my brief response is this. Well, perhaps the trade will have their own opinions on what can best help them. So I don't want to speak on their behalf. I think that we would rather listen to their views. Vice Chairman, I have a different opinion. The fishermen are sort of family business mostly, and they may not meet the requirements of SME for the SME loan. I think they are entitled a special loan scheme. I think the matter is not just restricted to the fishing business. From our discussions just now, we can see that the matter involves a lot of stakeholders who might have responsibilities and rights. And I understand that you have no objection to holding a public hearing, and I would proceed with this Secretariat to arrange such a session. Now, if you have names that of parties that you want to invite, please submit the names to us, and we will arrange to invite them. All right, so much for the agenda item today. We don't have A or B. Okay, Under Secretary? Yes, you are right. We don't have any objection, and it seems that members are in general supportive of the proposals. So can I say and jot down that the proposals receive support from members, and we will hold a public hearing to listen to stakeholders' views to fine-tune the proposals. Can I say that? Yes. Members are generally in support of furthering environmental protection. But as far as the details are concerned, because members come from different backgrounds and have varying work experience, and we don't have the full picture of the proposals, we may have views on the implementation details. Now, our general way of doing it is that we present a paper to you, and then you support in principle, and then we will proceed with coming with a legislative proposal. Now, Chair Lady, you are doing it in this way that you would be holding a public hearing to sort of listen to the views of stakeholders on the details of the proposals. But I want a clear response from the panel, and that is you support a legislative approach to the matter, right? Now, we also have a very clear indicator or index on the type of diesel that we proposed. And members are also in support of that. Is that right? All right. I haven't heard any objection from members, but there are worries about aspects like competition and so on. And that's why it's just suggested that we hold a public hearing before the blue bill is out, so that the administration and the electrical can listen to the trade's views, so that in drafting the bill, all the worries can be taken on board, and then we can come up with a win-win situation for all. So the proposals of legislation and also the proposal for a 0.05% sulfur content diesel are supported in general by the members. I think we can safely say that. All right. Well, no other business. Thank you for attending the meeting.